Roger and Jury, what are you guys doing? What initiatives are you taking to release affordable sections around Christchurch? I understand there were some released today, but property professionals say it's too little, too late to really drop the prices, and they ask why these things are still subject to appeals, plan changes and other red tape.
Well, I think anybody who would observe the process around that particular subdivision you're talking about would be able to comfort themselves that red tape was sliced to bits as that approval came through, and I congratulate the Christchurch City Council for that decisive action. Canterbury's had a UDS, an urban development strategy, for quite a long time. That planned areas where urban development might occur right out to about 2030. That can all be brought forward. You'd have seen in the Christchurch Press yesterday morning there was a three-page supplement, or three-page spread I should say, talking about the proliferation of subdivisions in and around Christchurch and the Waimakariri district. Our estimate is that right now there are some 6,000 sections either available or close to available. And then of course you see that the decision made yesterday would throw in another 2,600 sections, and we would expect others to come up as options for people as well. So we now need to accommodate not only the expected growth in Christchurch, and it's my strong contention that as we spend over $20 billion repairing this city, our population will grow, but also we have, as of today, 5,000 new people in the market for new homes. So a good prospect for the industry, great range of choices for the individuals, and plenty of land out there that is going to suppress the temptation to jack up prices. We're quite confident that things sit pretty well at the moment.
How quickly do you think a new house is going to be built for someone, though?
Well, I don't know. TV3 had this thing on the other night saying that they can be built in 2 days. So I'm not the guy. Talk to John Campbell. He's really good at this stuff.
But if someone next week buys a section off their own bat and they want a house built, there's obviously going to be a surge of that sort of scenario.
Yes, and there are also new sections and built properties available right now in many parts of the city. I think a good answer to that would come from the house and land package builders who operate around Christchurch. There are many of them, and rather than me speculating on what they're able to achieve, because I'm confident that they can do the job in a timely fashion. And remember that what we're saying is you've got 9 months to think about the offer, but then you can go for a deferred settlement as well. If you take it after a month, you can get a year, something like that. Then I think we can see all that managed reasonably well. But it'll be interesting to go to those home builders and see what they see, how they see the challenge.
Yes, can I just make one point about that? And that is that let's just argue for a moment it takes a year to build a house or whatever it might be. That whatever the number is, 9 months, a year, you can make your choice. But what the government's put on the table today is very important to understand, and that is without this option, that land that needs substantial remediation to be able to sustain properties is in for a process of 3 to 5 years of repatriation, settling down before a property could be rebuilt. So we have been faced with a situation where a minimum of 5,000 homeowners could potentially be in a situation where they actually couldn't get a property rebuilt on their land for the entire time that their children are at high school. I mean, that is an unacceptable position for those people. So today, you know, we're putting them in a position where the government is essentially saying, worst case scenario, we will buy you out of your property at rateable value, allow you to go and buy an existing property or go and buy a new one. So whether it's ultimately 9 months, 12 months, 13 months, 6 months, I don't know, or 1 day, it's a lot less than the 6 years or whatever it would have taken under the other scenario. And that's the reason why the government stepped up fundamentally.
Can you tell us how much the government will have to front up before the net cost comes through? Is it 1.52 billion, some number like that?
Well, the net cost in that, it depends on how many people take up the offer of the land. But I mean, if you just sat there for a moment and said there are 5,000 homes at $400,000, and if every single person exercised their right with the Crown, you could say $2 billion. But obviously, the reality is that not every home is valued at that amount of money. Not everyone's going to come and do that sort of package with us. And relatively quickly we would be getting money back from EQC and the private insurers. So it's really the net cost that we are looking at, and they're the best estimates that we can get is somewhere between that sort of 465 and...
What's your long-term view of the property that's freed up, the land that's freed up? I mean, presumably short-term it could be parks and reserves. Some may be able to be remediated and then the government sell it long-term, and who will hold it in the meantime? Yeah,
it's a good question of who will hold it. I think we hold it though. Lynn's will hold it. So
you won't transfer it to the council?
That's not the intention at this point, no.
Sorry, the rest of the question.
Oh, just in terms of how long? Well, look, it's a long time frame. I mean, it's at a bare minimum you'd have to clear all of those homes, repatriate that land, allow the settling process to take place. I mean, I think we're talking decades, not years.
But do you foresee a possibility of those becoming residential suburbs again?
You can't rule it out because we know by definition land can be repatriated and remediated. It's just a question of the time scale, and that's what we've done today. Is instead of asking people to hang around for 5 or 6 years, we're saying, within hopefully 8 weeks or less.
In order to speed up the processing, we'd like to set up a claim settlement workshop where the EQC and the insurance professionals sit with all documentation so that the claimants can work with their documents so that the settlement can be done on the spot, avoiding further delay through emails, phone,
EQC will be at the community workshops that Roger is putting together. As for the other part of the question, yes, there are issues around some people's claims, but there are also an awful lot being settled at the present time, and a large number of the people who are hearing this news today will already have had a $100,000 payment from EQC. Can I just, as we come to the conclusion of this, once again thank the Prime Minister, but also acknowledge the presence of David Ayres, the Mayor of Waimakariri, and thank him for the work that he's doing with his community, and also Mark Solomon from Ngāi Tahu, who continues to be a great support in looking after the people of Ōtautahi, I think I'm correct in saying, Mark, and we thank you for that. Can I ask perhaps last word to the man who's going to now face a city that's got a very different shape to it as of today, Bob Parker, to say very few closing words.
Hi, Glenn. No, I just really was saying to the Minister that we did an update on the amount of land availability in the city yesterday, and our current estimate is that we have around 11,000 sections currently serviced and available, or in subdivisions that are in the final stages at the moment. On top of that, we've got another 6,000 sections that are in the process of being consented, and they have already got infrastructure in our LTC, our long-term plans, and in our budgets. And we estimate that there is another 6,000 sections that are basically in planning processes that can be quickly released on the eastern side of the city, because just as the government has given people options around how they might be able to move out of their current properties, we want people to have options in terms of areas in which they can live. If you tally that up, that's something like 17,000 sections either available or very soon to be available, and potentially another 6,000 not far away from that. So today actually marks for us a huge step forward as a city. I want to acknowledge the great work that's been done. I personally don't think it could have been done any faster. What we needed as a city was a sustainable solution. Thank you.
One more announcement from the Prime Minister.
So obviously we're very conscious of people who are in the red zone. Will be in a position where in the very short term they're going to be cashed up if they decide to take the offer from the government in terms of rateable value. And in that situation they're then going to find themselves in a position where they'll want to buy a new home, arguably, and they may want to buy a more expensive home than the one they were originally in, but they certainly also would need to refinance themselves because of course their money will be used to pay off their existing mortgage. Yesterday we received a very generous offer from ANZ, who want to put on the table an offer to people in the red zone to allow themselves to finance themselves into a new home. So I want to ask David Hisco to say a few words, Chief Executive of ANZ New Zealand, and then we can make some comments after that. So David, over to you.
Thanks, John. Yeah, well, look, we first of all we acknowledge that everybody in Christchurch hasn't had the best of times for a while now, but the people in the red zones particularly have actually had a pretty awful time. And today, what we wanted to do, we really felt like we should do something special for those people to help them move on. And so we're putting aside $1 billion to lend at a rate which is going to be a little below 2% under the standard variable rate, so that's 3.7%. And that'll be available for anybody who receives a payout under the red zone plan. And so for the standard home loan of $300,000, that would represent a saving of a little over $6,000, and obviously that discount rate will be for the first year, and then it will go to the standard rate. So they'll be able to, everybody will be able to save about $6,000 on the average, and if the full fund is used, that would be a contribution on our behalf of a little over $20 million. So it's a sizable number from ANZ. And we're doing it at below cost for us, and it's what we want to do because we think these people need a bit of good news. And so we encourage people, there'll be some announcements about how you can access that and register for it. As I say, it is $1 billion, so we've put a cap on the fund, and there's a process which we can take you through when you phone up or visit ANZ or national branches. So that's really what we wanted to get the message across to you today on.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, John.
Thanks very much. All yours.
Well, that does conclude it. Final remarks. I think that indicates how well the corporate sector in New Zealand has stepped up to help Christchurch in that regard. I've got to say too that we have got to today's position because of the great cooperation with through the Insurance Council of New Zealand with the insurers, who are very keen to ensure that their policy holders get treated fairly through all of this. So I thank them for that engagement. Thank you very much for your time.
Christchurch Mayor Bob Parker talking there, before him the earthquake